Welcome to The Secret Cocktail. Today, we are interviewing Shawnelle Turman, who is the owner of Star Healthcare Training, located in Indianapolis, Indiana. Learn how she has come to grow her school.
It was probably month
Sorry.
that things started to take off. I started cultivating my community relationships. And when I say that, I mean,
Say that again. You said it about 9 months.
yes,
Things took off and you were cultivating your community relationships. And that's
yes.
what helped you. Tell us what that means and how did you do that?
So like I said, when I became a CNA, there was a local community center. I'm gonna have to shout them out because I was their partner of the year. So Cafe, which is the community alliance of the Far East Side, it is here in Indianapolis, and they do a lot of give back to the East Side. I grew up on the East Side, born and raised, so it was like I feel like it takes us to save us. So I approached Cafe and was like, hey, I have this program. Like, they are paying CNAs decent livable wages now. This is entry level job training. They don't need high school diplomas to do this. Like, let's make it make sense to put better jobs into our community. And so I pitched to them, and at first they were like, And then they actually got a new CEO, which I love her. She's amazing. And she was like, yes, we're doing this. And so they were able to help me gather students because, believe it or not, people go to their community centers looking for resources.
Mm.
And I
Mhm.
knew that because I was one of those people.
Yeah.
And so after I got in the cafe and I seen like they're sending me students, but they would only fund the east side of Indianapolis. So I would get students from the west side, from the north side, from the south side needing funding assistance. So I'm like, okay, let's do a little bit more research. So I
Mm.
started reaching out to other community centers, letting them know, like, hey, this is what I'm doing. And the fact that I am a member of the community, I'm not a major corporation school, kind of set it apart as well. And I mean, I would show up to community events. I don't just want you to send me students. I want you to know, like, I am a resource too.
And I'm vested in the community.
Yes,
You
yes.
see my
So,
face.
yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So I'm out here doing the work. And I think that is what makes a difference. I think some people, they get businesses, CNA schools, other businesses, and they think that, oh, because someone else is doing good in it, I'll just start this and I'll do good in it too. But you actually have to do the work. And in the beginning, I remember working 36 hours a week at the hospital and putting in 35 hours a week at the school. And it was like, I remember those days where the kids are asleep in the mannequins' beds because we got to get stuff done.
Yeah. Yeah, for real.
So
So
yes, go
so
ahead.
so yeah, so what I was going to say was because I know a lot of the people who are watching right now, that's where they are. They're working a full-time job. If they have young kids, the kids are at the school living there with them. And it's hard for them to see beyond that.
Yeah.
It's really hard for them to see beyond that. So what I would ask you is with respect to when did you know it was time to let go of the 9 to 5?
When my family told me they felt like they were getting the last piece of me,
Mm,
because I would be at the school during the day. I was working night shift. Like, I was doing whatever I had to do to make sure that the school was functioning and the bills at home are getting paid. And I finally was like, okay, God, because I am a firm believer in God. I pray, I do all that good jazz. And I was like, you gave me this vision and I want to see it through, but I need you to make it happen.
mhm.
And I promise you, when I stepped out and was like, you know what? I still have my job. I'm not going to lie and say that I don't have an employer, because I do. But I only work for my employer one day a pay period. So I give them 12 hours every 2 weeks, and that's it.
Mhm.
And that's just because I still, a little piece of me still feels like I want a safety net, if you will.
Okay.
But I will say, when I decided to put more into my business started giving me more.
And you know why that is, right? Because if you give PRN effort, you're going to get a PRN check,
There you
right?
go. There you go. That part. So I will say I worked as much as I could to get a little bit of a cushion. That way, when I was like, okay, you know what? We're going to step off. And those luxury things that became a part of my lifestyle, like getting my nails done every 2 weeks, getting my lashes done, those luxury, unneeded things, I cut back on those because getting my lashes done, that was $125. Like all those things added up. And I'm like, okay, I can cut here, I can cut here, I can cut here.
Yeah.
That way I'm still able to juggle being a part-time PRN employee and a full-time entrepreneur because it's rough in the beginning financially.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Okay. So at the 9-month mark, you said you started venturing out and making community connections. And then that's when you started seeing the students come in. So I think a lot of people can agree that these students want the education, but it's hard for them because they don't have the money. And so what I hear you saying is, I identified in my community on each side of the community.
Who can pay for these classes?
Who's willing to pay for these classes, right? What were you typing? What were you searching in Google to find?
So I was looking up adult education programs.
That's good.
Because a lot of, so like in my city, we have an adult education program called the Excel Center.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure they're probably more than just Indianapolis because it's part of the Goodwill. And the Excel Center, it is adult education where they're receiving their high school diploma. But part of their curriculum is they have to get some sort of certification. Guess what they provide? The certification.
Right.
So I reached out to them and I would say, you know, hi. And I make sure that I led with my acclimates. Like, I'm a registered nurse. I run this program. We are state approved. And at that time, I had only had, when I first started reaching out, I had probably only had maybe 7 students that had successfully completed the program. But guess what? All 7 of them were certified. So we're 100% pass rate.
Yeah.
And so, and that's what people wanted to hear. Like, oh my God, she's doing this. She's doing this. It's amazing. Let's send her students.
Yeah.
And that's literally how I cultivated the relationships. And then it's like the community centers, they talk. So the director over here talks to the director over there and so on and so forth. So when I got in a few of them, it was like, it created a buzz.
Yeah.
And then especially when I pride myself on communication. So when the partners reach out, I make sure that if it's not myself communicating back, it's someone who knows what they're talking about because they want prompt communication. They want to know what's going on with their student. Where are their dollars going? What's going on? So like I send out weekly updates. Hey, your student has completed the full first week of class. They're doing great. They're attentive. Or if they're not, on the flip side, I'm communicating that with the funding provider because even though it's essentially government money, they still have to show where their dollars went.
Yeah.
So like that's another thing I versed myself in is I started learning how grant money actually works. So that way I'm making sure I'm checking off all of my providers' checks.
Yeah.
So that way when another school comes in and says, hey, we offer CNA training, they're gonna be like, oh no, we cool where we at.
Yeah. Right. Because she's going above and beyond and she's making our life easy. Because I'm gonna tell you now, having to report on that government funding, it's not easy. And if the person you're giving the money to isn't making it easy, you're not going to want to deal with them.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're not. I mean, they have to all the way down to, did this person get a job? How much money did they make?
Yep.
Like they have to show the true integral aspects of the impact that they're making.
Yes. Yes.
So real quick, I love that you said that you keep them informed. I tell people all the time, every time you have a graduation, those graduation pictures you take, send it to your partners. You
so
know?
I do, and like with the Excel Center, they have a graduation for their students. Like when I go, tell me when the graduation is. If I've had students that are in that graduated from my program and are in this graduating class, I'm coming. Want, and that's the thing, like I check up on my students. So, 6 months after they finish the program, what are you doing? Where are you working? What are your end goals? And I think that that's something that has set me apart is because I do go, but I'm not just giving you the CNA training. Like, let's go a step further and make it to where we are a real life resource for you. And we've connected our students with other resources. Like I had one student face an eviction. Hey, I know a place that will give you rental assistance. I plugged her there because once you get into these community centers, you then start hearing about the other things they offer. And then it's just like a full social service, if you will.
Yeah, it's kind of like a lot of people say, well, in the entrepreneurship brim, that is, people are kind of like, well, how did you find out about that? Once you get your foot in the door,
Mhm.
you are a part of this quote unquote secret society that knows all this information and sharing this information, but you got to get your foot there. So to
Yes,
you, if you need to make an impact for your students, you got to be where your students need those resources so you can make that impact.
exactly, exactly. And then I think, like I said, I think it's all about. And I think you might have told me this when I was like, "How do I get a clinical contract?" And it's like you were like, "It's all about your mouthpiece." And I think I go in there and I am very articulate with my tone. I am knowledgeable of what I'm talking about. And it's,
Confidence.
yeah, I demand the room when I come in. And that's not me being cocky or arrogant. It's showing that I know my stuff. And that's why you should use my company, because you're going to get the results you're looking for.
Yes, I love it. I love it. And I love it. And we shouldn't even have to give that disclaimer, right? Like, I mean, I understand why you did it, but
Mhm.
why do we have to give that disclaimer? Like, I know my stuff, and it's not that I'm trying to be cocky, like you said. I shouldn't even have to give that disclaimer. Just respect that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I hate that we have to give that disclaimer too, but I had someone reach out to me and tell me that I needed to humble down. And I was like, no, I won't. Because if you knew where I started from, you wouldn't have dare said
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-mm-mm.
that.
It's people jumping in, I know, in the story and want to jump in at the end and try to tell
Exactly,
you.
exactly.
So you had a full year where you had 100 students or more, wasn't it?
Yes.
And for those of you, go ahead.
No, I have children that are trying to
Oh,
talk to me. So I'm trying to give them the
got
eyes.
so for those of you that are watching, I know some of you, this is year one and you have maybe 10 students and you're like, how in the world do I get to 100? Like, did she really have 100 students in 1 year?
Yeah. So like when I say show up to these community events, meet your students where they're at. Okay. Your students are entry level job seekers, because that's what CNA training is. That's what CNAs are. It's an entry level job position. It's a needed job position, but it's entry level. So
Mhm.
go where they're going. So like I said, like community events, I show up to those. I make sure that I know when the community events are happening in my area, and we got a table there.
Yep.
Um, the high school, I don't really pitch to high schoolers as much, not my niche, not my forte. But that's another option. So, and like the adult education programs,
Yep. GED
like,
programs.
yes,
If they're already in the mind frame of wanting to learn, they're for you.
yes. Also the facilities, the nursing facilities, because guess what, there are housekeepers, there are dietary aides, there are activity therapists that want to be caregivers as well. And those facilities, if it is a Medicaid facility, they get government dollars to pay for CNA training.
Yep. Yep.
So like if this is something that you want to do, dive in and do the research to figure out, okay, this is the training that I'm providing, these are the people that pay for it.
So once you grabbed a hold of those community resources, how long would you say it took for you to nurture those relationships
um
before you started seeing results? You know what I mean?
I think like a couple of them, the people that I approached in the center, they already knew me, because like I said, community service is just something that I've been passionate about. So when I approached them, they like, yeah, because I'm already active in the community. There were some centers that were like I just got another contract, and the lady of over the program sent her son through the program as like their pilot student. And I knew that. I knew that this young man had no interest in being a CNA, but he was the pilot student.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they want to make sure that they are going to get results.
Right. Oh, all the time. They want to make
Yeah.
sure they don't get results
Yeah.
because again, they gotta show and prove the people who giving
Yeah.
them money.
So I think I will say with majority of my relationships that I have in the community, it was probably maybe a class or two before
Mhm.
they were like, okay, she knows she got something good going over there because the students are being successful in class, the funders are being communicated with, they're getting their state exam, and I do my best to streamline everything. So
Yeah.
like when it comes to the state application, we're doing that in class. When
Hmm.
it comes to submitting the application, I'm submitting that for you. When it comes to scheduling the exam, I'm doing my best to make sure that I'm helping you schedule because now Indiana's self-scheduling with the written exam, which that's a whole nother story because I don't like it. But I do my best to make sure that the ball is not dropped nowhere along the lines. That way the community partners know, like, hey, she's doing her thing. The
Yeah,
dollars are
but how do you do that? Do you have a group of people that are helping you? Because that sounds like a lot. So how are
yes,
you doing that?
yes. It is not just me. It is
Okay.
not just me. In the beginning, I was everything. Okay. And I will say that in the beginning, I was program director, I was instructor, I was HR, I was payroll, I was all of the above. But now I do have people that help me out. So, like, as far as communicating with the funders, I still do that myself because I want to make sure that that communication stays on point. But as far as like making sure the students have all of their paperwork, all of that stuff, I've divvied out those tasks and I actually utilize my family. Um, I utilize my family because A, they want to see me win.
Yeah.
And B, we already have that trusting foundation relationship. We had the conversation like, we are always going to be family. Do not, but this is business.
Yeah.
So I joke with my aunt because my aunt is someone that helps me, and my aunt has always been almost like my mom. Like I remember saying yeah to her, and she'd be like, "Excuse me." And so when we discuss business, we kind of discuss that as well. Like when we're talking business, please don't take what I say as disrespectful or me not respecting my elders because I'm talking to you on the business standpoint. Now, when we
Yeah.
flip over into niece aunt relationship, then it's different persona.
Yeah.
So I think just setting those boundaries and expectations from those that help me, because I do have some people on my team that are not my family members. And I make it very clear, like, I'm a cool person all day long. We can talk about anything, keep it real, all of the above. But at the end of the day, like, this is my business and my name that's on it. And I'm big on whatever stigma may be connected to my name. I want it to be a positive one.
Yes, yes. And you're right. There's a way where you can still say, because I have family members that work for me too. It's
Mhm.
a way, and I love that you are having people who are your family working with you. If I'm gonna give money to somebody, I want it to
I
be my
will.
family if I can, right?
Yes.
But not letting the family relationship pour over into the business relationship. And like that's a discussion off the rip in the beginning before we even get this started.
Yes. And I feel like that was the mistake that I made when I started the business, and I had a friend who I turned to a business partner, and we never had that discussion. Like, this is
Mm.
our friendship, this is our business partnership, and they're separate.
Yeah.
And it turned sour. And not only did I lose the business partner, I also lost the friend.
Yeah.
So I think that was a learning experience. And like, I want to tell everybody that's watching, like, you are going to fall, you're going to stumble, you're going to bump your head, you are going to have WTF moments. Like, they come, but you cannot allow them to stop you or hinder you. You
Yeah.
take them as learning lessons. And I'm a firm believer, it's like things repeat themselves. So like, learn that lesson because you're gonna see the test again.
Um, I'm with you. Don't look at Laura. Hey, Laura. Yeah, please. To your point, don't be afraid to have those conversations because sometimes it's uncomfortable or we feel like it's uncomfortable, but it's going to be even more uncomfortable
Mhm.
when it goes left and you don't know how to make it go right. You
Yep.
know, that's even worse. So it's better because if we have the conversation early on and you realize in that conversation you're not feeling me and I'm not feeling you, then we don't even need to go that route.
We don't even need to go left or right. We can just
You can just act like that didn't even happen. So, but I love that you have family members in your business. Those of you who are watching, a lot of people say, don't bring family into business. Don't, I think you can.
You can, as long as you set those boundaries in the beginning.
And those expectations, yes, you can.
Absolutely.
I agree, and I love to see that you're doing that. All right, how have you maintained such a high pass rate, ma'am? I heard you got a 100% pass rate. Your
Oh,
first
I do have, let me correct. I have a 98% pass rate. I do have a couple
all
of
right,
students.
98
I know,
now.
I want to be technical. I will say what helped me is in the beginning when my students would take the state exam, I would ask them, remember a couple questions off the state exam for me. I need you to remember at least 2 of them.
Mm.
And they would come and they would tell me those 2 questions. And about after 5 or 6 classes of doing that, because there were a couple people that came back and I was like, I already got that question. But about after a few classes of doing that, I kind of knew what the exam was asking.
Mm-hmm.
Teach to the exam. I'm also, like I said, I'm also still a nurse that's in the field. So when we go to clinicals, our clinicals are set up to the real world. So they're getting the perfect world for the exam as well as the real world so they know how to be when they go in the workforce, because there are 2 different things.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because my aunt actually sat and listened to me teach one day, and she was like, how you teach is just really cool because we have a conversation when I'm teaching.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that I'm sitting in front of you reading this book and hoping that you digest this material, because any of you that are watching and CNA material is some of the most boring material there is. And the state of Indiana's material is all geared towards nursing home. Like the CNA doesn't work anywhere else besides the nursing home.
Yeah.
So I bring my hospital experience into the teaching because I let them know like the hospital is where you can work. And I also bring relatable stories. So like, for instance, when we talk about hypoglycemia and hyperglycemia, I compare hyperglycemia to Kool-Aid with too much sugar in it. And I compare hypoglycemia to an addict that's withdrawing. That way they can remember those signs and symptoms and correlate it with a story. Because in my experience, if you give, like, for instance, with math equations, how many people remember, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally?
Right.
And now you remember your order of operations because they gave you a tidbit to remember it by.
Yep.
And so those are things that I utilize in class to help the students remember the material. Make it relatable.
Love that. So in that vein, I was doing some research. I'm just gonna share this because I don't know if you use it or if you heard of it, and I think you might like it, and those who are watching, you might like it. But hold on, I can't see your live because my live isn't public. Okay, some people can't see the live because it's not public and they're not my friend. Sorry. It's Facebook, y'all. I don't know why Facebook. I'll have to fix it after we're done with being live. But anyway, PIMP. And this is for airborne precautions and droplet precautions. So I teach them PIMP is for droplet precautions because when a pimp slaps you, you're gonna drop.
No, seriously, and they're gonna remember that. Like,
yes.
I'm gonna tell you one of my funny ones.
And MTV is for airborne because MTV is a television show, it's on the air. So like, just remember, and then when we go to MTV, well, what does MTV and what does PIMP stand for? PIMP stands for pertussis, influenza, measles, right? And so it goes into, these are diseases that require droplet precautions. These for MTV, what was it? Meningitis, tuberculosis, varicella, right? These are things that require airborne precautions. It's something to help them remember, to your point, because if you're just telling, just remember, it's not easy. You got to give fun little things.
Yep. So that's the same thing I do, like with the systolic over the diastolic blood pressure. I tell them the S is over the D because the sun is above the dirt. So like, and they remember that. So then when they're looking, it's so funny because on one of the quiz, because I make up quizzes, they get homework. So I don't just teach the book work. They have quizzes, they have homework, they have study guides. Like, this is school.
Right.
And so on one of the quizzes, one of the students actually like wrote the sun over the dirt to remember the systolic over diastolic. And I'm like, I love it because that means what I'm doing is working. And then it's like, once I figured out, I want to say at the end of year 1, I figured out what I'm doing is working. I don't change it.
And
so now
no need to fix what ain't broke.
That part. So now I have instructors. I have not taught a class. I've taught a few, but I have not taught a whole class all year because I have instructors. And what I did was when I brought those instructors on, I had them sit and watch me teach.
Mm-hmm.
You know that you know the material because you're a nurse. But look at how
you're implanting my brain into yours because I already figured it out.
Yep. So they sat and they watched me teach because not that I want to sit down and go over this material with you because you know the material.
Right.
You know how to transfer a patient in and out of bed. Like, you know those things. But look at how I teach. So there are things like when I'm teaching, I'm funny with my teaching. I make jokes when I'm teaching. And like I said, I use real life, relatable experiences. And so I think that that is what has helped with the pass rate. I also do not allow my students to come into the classroom with negativity. So like when we have test day and they come in, oh, I'm not about to do good on this test. Oh, go put that back in the hallway and then you can come in here. And so the first time I told them, and they looked at me, I'm like, no, I'm serious. I need you to get up and go into the hallway and drop that energy off and then come back in here. So I work on those things with my students as well, because if you tell your brain that you cannot do something, guess what? Your brain is like, well, you already said we can't do it. So what I need to try for?
Yep. You ain't lied.
So yeah. And then I'm very hands-on when it comes to like how my instructors work with the students. There are days where we just do book review. There are days where we just do skill review. And I think like with my new facility, which you have to come and see, it's amazing. How the classroom is set up, the lab is right there. So the teacher is able to go over the book work and then go over here and demonstrate at the same time.
Nice. And it's not a lot. It's very easy and a smooth transition.
Yep.
Yeah. I know. I remember you had moved facilities and I ain't been to Indiana since, so I can't wait to come so I can see it.
Yes.
What marketing tactics have you used and what did you find works the best? So I heard you say community, right?
Yeah.
What else? Anything that you can?
So I will tell you, social media marketing is amazing. Because let's be honest, the crowd that we are marketing to, like I said, are those entry-level job seekers. And what are a lot of them? A lot of them are our technical era of people. So they're scrolling on social media. So I do run targeted ads on Facebook and Google. And before I had all of the community relationships, a lot of my students were coming from Facebook ads. And so that is one thing that I do. And then the groups that are on Facebook. So like we have like single parent groups, moms of Indy. We have different groups on Facebook like that, which I'm pretty sure every city does.
Yep.
I target those groups. So when those groups say you can post and advertise, we're posting and advertising.
Okay. And I think the biggest thing is being consistent with that.
You do. Because guess what? If you think that you're about to put $20 on Facebook ads and get a lead off of that, I pray that it works out for you. I will say like the first couple of ads I ran, I did not get leads right away. And I was like, this is wasting my money and wasting my time. And my social media marketing person was like, no, it's not. You have grown in likes. Your page is growing. People are noticing. You're getting now organic traffic. Yeah. So it was like those things. YouTube University, I will tell you, utilize that because let me tell you, I'm a proud graduate of YouTube University. But those SEOs on your website and things of that nature, like they matter.
They do.
So like all the pictures on my website are labeled as like CNA training, nurse aid training near me. All of that way, when someone Googles, I pop up.
It's going to come up. Yes. Please say it louder for the people in the back. I think that a lot of us, and we're nurses, we're from the bedside. We don't understand that and we don't know that. And that's okay. But you have to educate yourself.
Educate.
It took me, I think, 2 years after like my first year, I didn't know what I was doing with the Sierra Cocktail, but by my second year, I started figuring it out and I understood, like you said, how to play with SEO, how to use key terms, how to put stuff on my website, how the URL matters and all the subdomain that they matter. And I just kept feeding myself that information and I would engulf in it. I would spend hours learning about it. When I'm in the car for an hour, I'm on YouTube University watching a video of someone. You have to obsess with it almost, you know, to educate yourself because nobody else, it just doesn't happen after one dose.
Nope, it doesn't. And I think that's what some people want. They see and like I said in the beginning, like they see someone else's success and they're like, but you don't see all of the blood, sweat, and tears that went into building that success.
Yeah.
Because we sit and we watch YouTube videos on marketing, on strategies, because it's like, you have to keep up with the next best thing if you want to be the best thing.
Yeah, and it's coming left and right. Things are coming. At the mastermind retreat, and I had planned the mastermind retreat for this year, last year around this time. But by the time it was time for mastermind retreat, I had to change some of the content because now AI came out, artificial intelligence with GPT, chat, and Bard. So I was like, okay, well, I would be remiss to not teach this to people. And I had to make sure I was on top of game with Bard and how to use it and stuff like that. So I could teach that at the retreat. It can change overnight.
Yeah. And I will tell you one thing that I do is I send out emails so I capture everybody's email. If you ever come to my website, I am capturing your email. Okay. It pops up first thing. I utilize that. So even though I'm probably at almost 200 students now, on my email capture, I've captured over 1,000 emails. And guess what? All 1,000 of those people get my newsletter when I send it out. Not only that, after the students have gone through the program, I send them emails, kind of incentive with like, submit a Google review or a Facebook review for your chance to win a $50 gas gift card.
Yeah.
So now they're going to leave reviews because I'm a review reader. So if I'm a review reader, I know there are other people out there that are review readers just like me.
Yep. And it entices them.
So not only do I want to bring that traffic to my website, I want you to also see that we've got positive reviews. So this is why you should use us.
I also want to say something real quick. If everyone just heard her statistic, if you have ever listened to me, you've been to any of my events, I always tell you, the conversion rate for a student is anywhere from 2 to 5% is your conversion rate. Okay. Now you just heard her say she has 1,000 people on her email list, but 200 of those have become students. That's a 2% conversion rate. So when I talk to people and they're like, well, this week I talked to 20 students, but none of them signed up or only one signed up. Girl, you're doing good. You had 20 people call and only one signed up. You're doing great. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing and you don't even know it.
Yep.
It's okay. If you're not getting the enrollment, it's probably because you're not getting the amount of leads. You need more leads because I'm telling you, only 2, if you get 5%, you bomb, but only 2 to 5% are going to convert.
Yeah. And I will say one thing I stopped saying was, I don't have no students in this class. And I started saying, this class is about to be full. Like, I really believe like you have to change the way you look at and think about things. Because yes, I had a class this year. I had 3 students in that class. And when I look back on it and see like, okay, I had 3 students in that class, I was also being negative because one of my instructors was leaving and I was like, oh, I'm about to have to teach class again. And I'm juggling this, that, and the third. How am I going to do this, that, and the third? And so God was like, okay, here go your little 3 students then. And that's really what I believe. And I was like, hold on, no, I have to change. And like, y'all, I challenge y'all, like change. I was just playing. I'm serious, y'all. Change y'all mindset and the way that you look at your business and how it's functioning and operating. And even if it's not bringing in the plethora that you want it to bring in, walk in that light. Like, I got full seats. I got a waiting list. Walk in that because I really believe like the law of attraction.
Yeah.
And that's that.
Yeah, I'm with you. Okay, so I know we're a little bit over our time, so I'm gonna start to bring this up to a break. I have a few questions that people had asked. Let's see. So, hey, Miss Elhack. Miss Elhack is actually a new school owner who we worked with. She's here in Georgia. She said, do you feel as though Google Ads is good for the type of business that we have?
Yes, I do. I do feel that Google Ads are good because when you're running Google Ads and someone searches CNA school near me, if you're running a Google ad, when you search for something, those first couple of bullets are the people that paid Google to make them pop up first.
That's right.
So yes, I do feel like Google ads are good. And I will never sit here and tell you that I am a marketing genius, because I'm not. I pay someone to do it for me because I know my weaknesses as well. So I'm just going to throw that out there as a disclaimer.
What else? They said, oh, I don't know why it won't let me see them all now. Okay. Hello, I need help bringing students in. Yeah. So Miss Collins, if you're just getting here, you'll probably have to watch the replay, because if you guys can agree and maybe put in the chat what nugget Shawnelle has given you so far that you didn't think about that you're going to take with you, please type it in there. Shawnelle has given some real deal insight on how she's been able to grow. And she's been able to grow so much, y'all, that now she has a new business venture. What's your new business venture, boo?
You so ugly. My son is over here like snapping in the background. So I now have a home care company, a non-medical home care company in the state of Indiana, and we are Medicaid approved. So we take Medicaid as well as private insurance. This was something that I actually wanted to do first because it is more profitable than the CNA business. Because with the CNA, you got a cap on how many you can have in your class. Like, you know what I mean? And I highly suggest you guys do put a cap on that because that helps your pass rate stay up. But the home care business it's a way for me to market, because not only am I going to get you training, but I can offer you a job afterwards. So I do use that as a marketing strategy now, as well on both sides. So when I go to my client's house, I let them know, like, my caregivers are trained by my program. So they're held to my standards and they know what I expect.
So how has the care, was it hard managing the two different businesses?
Yes.
In the beginning?
Yes. So I'm still in the beginning stages with the home care company. When I tell you, like, if you put your mind to something, and I think I made this my status the other day, if you want something to grow, give it dedication, consistency, and attention. It's a way and so in the beginning, and I'm still, like I said, I'm still in the beginning, figuring out how to divide my time between the two is a challenge. But I think I waited enough with the CNA school to where, like I said, I don't teach classes on a day-to-day anymore. I know, right? I have 4 instructors that do work underneath me. So like, even in the event that the main instructor calls off, I got 3 other people that I can call to see, like, hey, are you available to do this class? And if y'all want to talk about hiring, we can do that at another time. But yeah, so that made it easier for me to run with the CNA program as well as the home care, like having those instructors do the day-to-day. And then having systems for the CNA program. Like, there's a checklist on what needs to be in my student folders before they even start class. The students are also sent a checklist of things they're missing from their folders before they start class. So like, having those systems in place, because the CNA class, once you get your system, it's the same thing over and over, because the state didn't change, the curriculum didn't change, the process didn't change. So once you get your flow, it's easy.
So somebody asked, do you have any automations? What kind of automations do you have, if you do have any?
As far as automations, like, my program is still all in person. I am not a good online learner. So with that being said, I don't offer online learning. I feel like majority of people, this whole COVID thing gave us this concept that, you know, and some people are good at self-learning and holding themselves accountable and being disciplined and all of that. I knew that I was not. So my classes are still in person, but as far as like automations, like, my application is online. The application fee can be paid online, and if they're paying out of pocket, they get an invoice that they can use to make their payments. They understand what their payment arrangement is. Those are really the only things that I have like automated, if you will. Because my program, like the tuition includes everything. So like books, scrubs, blood pressure cuff, all of that is included in my tuition cost. So the student doesn't have to really worry about doing too many things outside of enrolling.
Got you. And I'm sure they appreciate that. Do you feel like that does help them with the barrier to entry to the
Yes.
program?
Yes. So I think what we as business owners have to understand, because most of us that are running these programs are nurses, and we feel like I feel like as nurses, we're already meticulous anyway, but we have to understand that we are dealing with a population that doesn't have it all together yet. Like we're there to help them get it together. So I work on making the process as simple as possible.
Yes. Very valid point. And that helps with the barrier to entry, I think, for sure. So you've moved away from doing a lot of teaching. You have some staff in place. You just focus more on program coordinating. As a program coordinator, if you don't mind me asking, I know this isn't quote unquote about growth, but I know a lot of people are very confused or not really understanding about the role of a program coordinator. So since you've been able to really focus on that, how would you define that? What would you say some of the key things are for you?
As a program coordinator, like I focus on enrollment and then getting them out. So in and out is kind of what my position as the program director is. So what I mean by that is like making sure that they have that enrollment process going. If they're coming with funding, I make sure that I've reached out to the funding provider. And then as far as that exit piece, I do the state applications for them. Like we do state applications as part of our last day of class. And then making sure they have their certificate of completion. And then I'm still doing like the follow-up things. So I do follow up with my students after they finish the program just to see like, hey, what are you doing? Where are you? Because I have some students that are interested in nursing school and I hold them accountable. Hey, you said you were going to enroll this fall. Are you enrolled? And I think that is what has my students like tell their friends, hey, I went through this funding program. They paid for me to go to this CNA program. So now their friend is going to the funder and coming through my program.
And she really cares about us.
Exactly.
She calls and checks on me. You know, that personal touch does something. How many of you have programs? Because we can get so stuck in the monotony, and this is not to like point the finger at you. This is an aha moment. How many of you are so stuck in the monotony of running the business that you do forget to make those calls and do those pulse checks with people? You know, it does matter. It really does. Anybody who's been through any of my programs, you know, I try my best. I call, even if it's every 6 months, I call.
No, seriously, I do. And I try to do like make the students feel appreciated. So like at the end of class, they get like a little goodie bag. So I have like a questionnaire that I ask at the beginning of the class, and I call it a get to know you form. And so I ask them questions about their personal lives, like how many kids do you have? What's your favorite color? What's your favorite candy? And then at the end of class, they have this little goodie bag that costs me maybe $15 to put together. And it has something of their favorite color. It has their favorite candy in there. If they say they got kids, I put little trinkets in there for the kids. And it cost me little of nothing, but it made them feel like I really went out of my way to do something special for them.
You listened.
Yeah. Yep. Even though I wrote it down the day before I went to the store. No, I'm just kidding.
No, it's the thought that does count.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
Really, I like that. Thank you for sharing that. I like that. Any other questions you guys have before I let her go? This was awesome. Thank you so much.
Yes. Look, I'm trying to look at the questions and see if there were any other questions on here either. Because I want to, like, y'all, I'm a resource. Like, y'all can follow me on both of my social media pages. It is Star Training. Like, if y'all have questions, I don't mind answering questions. I am not the pusher by far, but I will answer questions. And you know, I'm here as a resource, y'all. Like, it takes a village to make it make sense and use your resources, because I don't mind asking people questions.
Okay. That's how we all got to where we are, was asking, hopefully we were asking questions and we weren't trying to, this whole do it yourself and I ain't need no help and y'all can have that.
No, I actually have three other people in the state of Indiana that all have CNA programs, and they are all in my phone under contacts, and I call them when I have questions, and vice versa. Like, utilize your resources, because that saying, it's enough out here for all of us, it really is. And like, having those connections, when a student reaches out to me and I don't have room, I can be like, hey, you could go over here.
Yeah. Yeah. So for those of you who may have tuned in late, because I see a few people saying, oh my God, I missed it. This is a live, but as soon as we end it, you'll be able to watch the replay. Also, if you are trying to start a healthcare training program, it may not be CNA, it may be phlebotomy, it may be medical assistant. That's what the Secret Cocktail is here to do, to help you figure that out, whether it's through seminars, whether it's through mentorship, or we just do it for you. We're here to help you. And I really wanted to bring Shawnelle on, because so many people are afraid to do it because they don't know what to expect, or they don't know what to feel, or maybe I heard so-and-so didn't do well and she had to close her program down. I'm scared to do it. It can be done. And Shawnelle is proof that it can be done. And you just got to do the right things to do it. So over the next few days, I'm going to be interviewing a few more people. I'll be interviewing Claudia. She's a school owner in Florida. I'll be interviewing Pamela. She's a school owner in Tennessee, right? So I'm going to have a series where I'm interviewing people who are doing very well in their business. So I want you to see the positive side of things too. Sometimes we're so busy in the business, we're not talking about what we're doing. So thank you so much, Shawnelle, for taking time out of your busy schedule to take a moment to share your knowledge. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So thank you for having me. I appreciate this. Thank y'all for y'all questions. I guess if y'all have additional questions, don't hesitate to just reach out to me. Give me a little bit of time to respond, but I will respond.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and end on that note. I will try to put a replay on YouTube also, but I pressed the record button late. So we'll see. But anyway, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye.